Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Writers Podcast. I'm Bill Newell with MSO News Sports. We have Phil Stacey here, the executive sports editor of the Salem News and beyond, Matt Williams, assistant Salem News sports editor, and Nick Giannino, the sports editor at the Gloucester Times. Geez, everyone's an editor but me. But anyways, we'll get going here. Here we are on Patriots Day talking to put this up on Tuesday morning. We have some results in from the Monday action, but Phil, I want to go back. So here we are. I'm going to, we got all these real season results to share with folks maybe, but albeit very early in the spring sports season. But the St. John's Prep lacrosse team had a very publicized scrimmage. So tell us about that, what it means and what the takeaway is from the scrimmage loss that they had this week.
Yeah, so originally this was going to be a regular season game for St. John's. I mean, for those who don't know the backstory, 3-time defending state champions. They haven't lost in state for almost 3 years, I think. They try to get the best competition they can. Last year they played Staples out of Connecticut. They'll play Staples again. They played Bishop Girton. They played a team out of New Jersey last year. So they set up a game with IMG Academy. For those who don't know, IMGA is kind of like a high school sports powerhouse out of Florida. It's where Janelle Aguero went, who came back to St. John's after being there for a couple of years. He's now at the University of Georgia. He's scheduled to start this year as a sophomore in the secondary. There's all kinds of great baseball players that go there, football, basketball. It's just a sports powerhouse. Because of the state's governing bylines, the MIAA, the game couldn't be sanctioned. So long story short, St. John's Prep used it as a scrimmage. They didn't wear their game jerseys. They wore practice pennies or whatever you want to call it. IMG treated it as a game, but for the Prep, it was just a high-level scrimmage. And I got to say, I'm really surprised. There was close to like a packed house there. Now, it was a beautiful Saturday. So, I mean, I'm sure people want to get out, do something and all, but there were a lot of people there. I took a picture and you could see there were tons of people there. And I sent out a few tweets, just, I wasn't keeping score per se or anything like that, but just kind of updating people on how things are going. And it got tremendous response. I mean, more than most regular season games we do, which is kind of strange. I think that's maybe the power of prep athletics and the far reach it has, but also the fact that they're playing this nationally ranked dynastic program. What was also interesting, I found out during the game, is IMG had a player from Danvers, kid right from Danvers named Jackson Allen. So I got to talk to him for maybe a minute and a half after the game, got his story. I'll throw a little bit about him in this week's lacrosse column on Thursday. But, the Prep hung in there. They scored first. It was 6-1 at halftime. IMG, their goaltender was ridiculously good. Maybe the best high school goalie I've ever seen. But St. John's cut away in that second half. And while they never tied the game up or took the lead, it was 9-8. They scored with 12 seconds left to make it 9-8. And they had possession off of a foul. And they got 2 shots on the IMG net in the final 12 seconds. And one was stopped and the other one went wide. So IMG won the game. But great learning experience for St. John's. I mean, they're clearly not going to play anybody as good as that team in the regular season. So, yes, it's a loss, but it doesn't count on their schedule because it's a scrimmage. So they're only going to get better because of this. And it was really good high-end lacrosse on a beautiful day at St. John's.
I might have missed this, but IMG, they had to be up here for other games too, right? They didn't just come up to.
Yeah, no, they did a 4-game swing and they played 3 ISL teams, Nick.
Okay.
And then St. John's was part of that mix too. In fact, I think today was their last game against, I should know this, BB&N or Thayer. No, they lost to Thayer. This team lost to Thayer Academy. And I think that it was a BB&N or Brewster. They were playing somebody with B today, not Brooks.
Beaver.
And then they were going back home. But, the funny thing is that the coach was saying that they only play a 13-game schedule because they can't get anybody to play them. Lacrosse isn't exactly a hotbed down in Florida, so they travel for almost every game. and they try to get these games in blocks of 3 or 4 to play teams. I do know that lacrosse tends to be a sport where, certainly the Ivy Leagues are very good in lacrosse. It's some of the best lacrosse in the country. And IMG may not always be a place where students go. It may be, where great athletes go and they also go to school, as opposed to like, an ISL or St. John's or whatever school you think, BC High or something that's high in both academically and athletically. So,
Right.
but it was a good run for both teams, and I'm sure they both got a lot out of it.
I could have qualified for them, but not as an athlete. Okay, now it's funny. We're sending teams down south in February and in April, and they're coming north. It's crazy, but you kind of answered my question before I could even get it out. Is that why come north? I mean, but I could see lacrosse is big in the Mid-Atlantic states, though. I mean, a lot of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think Baltimore,
yeah,
Long Island area,
Virginia,
Maryland, those are all big hotbeds. But not really, in the Panhandle, I don't think.
No.
That area. So, but IMG is based out of what is it, Nick Bradenton?
I don't know.
Some hoop guys, right?
What's that? I know. Yeah, they do have good hoop. They got good football, obviously. But I'm not sure the exact town they're in.
Palmetto Bay, Florida. Quick search on the Google.
There it is.
So I'm guessing that's some. In fact, those guys must have been chilly because I saw one kid with what looked like mittens on the sidelines. I don't think they were gloves, like lacrosse gloves. I think they were mittens. And I'm like, but it's like 55 degrees or whatever it was, 60 degrees, like, but if you're coming in, it's 85, maybe it's chilly. I don't know.
Well, they had to make a stop at Eastern Mountain Sports before going over to play at the Prep.
Yeah,
Saturday.
right.
Yeah.
Pick up some Tivas or whatever. I don't know.
55 years.
Surprised they didn't have those neck things on too for the cold weather. But all right. But I think that's a great story, though. I'm sorry. I mean, Phil, thanks for the information. That's a fantastic story.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, gentlemen. Let me circle down. Let's go to Matt. Matt, you want to share an update or two on something you've noticed in the past week or looking ahead to this week?
I mean, Zdeno Chara finished a marathon. That's cool.
Running London.
3:30, right? I saw you finish it in 3:30, like 8 minutes faster than he did last year.
That's pretty big strides, I would imagine. So it's maybe like just taking the big steps. I don't know. We're still kind of getting in the swing of things here. I don't know.
Yeah.
The baseball's kind of going a little bit. I mean, it's so hard to get a read on anybody. Some teams have played 4 games. Some teams have played 1 game. I mean, some teams' number 1 pitchers haven't thrown a pitch yet. So it's like, I think the weather last week certainly wreaked some havoc on some things. And, it's looking pretty good for this week. But, not everybody's rescheduling their games right away either. So it's going to be packed in the month of May. But that's good because that'll give us time to catch up on, just what's going on with everybody, right?
Nick, how about the Cape Ann? What can you share with us from northern Essex County here?
Well, I got some, not breaking news, but relevant to today. Gloucester baseball got their first win. They beat Haverhill, a Division I team. I saw them in their opener. We had a story in the paper on their opener against Beverly that went to extra innings, and they ended up having to call it due to darkness. I don't believe, I haven't heard anything, but I don't believe they've resumed that game yet. So they went out next game and lost to Swampscott, and now they're on the board. They beat Haverhill 6-3. Complete game for Braden Francis. 8 strikeouts for him. They had like 3 guys have a pair of hits. So pretty complete performance, 6-3 game for them. They had a home run by Ben Mello, go-ahead home run, 3-run homer in the 4th inning to secure that win. So I was impressed with them, in their opener. I thought both teams, at times looked a little sloppy, but for the most part, pretty good on both sides of the ball. I think Gloucester has a chance to have a pretty good season here. So that's kind of the breaking news. I mean, like I mentioned, they've only played 2.5 games, really, and a lot of baseball teams have just dealt with postponements and stuff. We had some great weather today. Hopefully the rest of the week looks good and we can start really getting into the swing of things. But most teams have played 5 games or less, 4 games or less. I caught some lacrosse. I'll be doing a lot of girls lacrosse this year with the quick six column again, and got I can touch on that just real quick. Manchester Essex and Ipswich faced off really early on the girls lacrosse scene. Those are the 2 teams that met in I believe it was the Division 4 semifinals last year, won by Ipswich by a couple goals. And it was another 2-goal game. Manchester Essex has now lost to Ipswich 4 times in a row by exactly 2 goals. So they're right there. They just haven't been able to get over the hump, but that was some quality lacrosse, really good defense played by both sides. I think once again, those 2 teams are going to be definitely contenders in the Division 4 playoffs. One thing I did notice about Manchester was they have a shorter bench. I know they graduated some girls, but they still have plenty of talent, but including their goalie who's going to Division 1, North Carolina, Bridget Cavarolano. I always am going to butcher that name, so I apologize, but she's been impressive, and those 2 teams are looking really good, Ipswich included, for sure.
More great information there. Phil, what else on the boys lacrosse scene can you share with us here? Any surprises so far?
Yeah, well, Marblehead saw its 62-game win streak within the Northeastern Conference ended by Swampscott. Swampscott has to be the early story of the local lacrosse scene. They're 5-0. They're playing great, and they hardly have any upperclassmen at all. I mean, it's a really young team. A lot of young guys getting it done for them so far. But they won again today, Monday. They beat Salem 15-5. So they're now 5-0 on the season. And, you're seeing all kinds of strong play from them. Liam Keeney has got more than a dozen points. Same with freshman John Von Barda, Chase Russo, another youngster who's doing really, really well. Some of the upperclassmen like Jack Hazel, Carson Palmer, Max Field, Drew McCathern are providing that leadership for the younger guys. Greg Balkinshoff, I should throw in there too. He's another senior. And they've been using Timmy Sheehan mostly in goal, but they got Joey Pilat too. They beat Marblehead last Thursday in a game under the lights in Swampscott. It started to pour at the end of the game, but they raced out to a big lead. They held on for a 10-9 win. So congratulations to Jeff Beckett and his Big Blue. Marblehead, though, comes right back, and they beat Danvers on Saturday. That game was back and forth for 3 quarters, 10-10. And then Marblehead scores 8 unanswered goals in the fourth quarter to win that one, 18-0. And then they shut out Peabody today, 17-0. So they certainly appear to be back on track there. Elsewhere, I would say Essex Tech has done very well too, Bill. First season in the Cape Ann League. They had 4 games in 5 days last week. First 3 of those were all on the road, and they won all 3 of those, which was definitely impressive to see them do that. Their only loss was to Newburyport, which of course is the powerhouse, but they won at Peabody Monday, they won at Amesbury on Tuesday, and they won at North Reading on Wednesday. The Gadboy brothers, Fisher and Mason, I think they've already got a combined 30 goals and 50 points. Timmy Tavares, Dom Tabari, Armani Booth, goaltender Damian Bierstecker have all been really, really strong for them so far. And the other story I would talk about is Ipswich. They're off to a 5-0 start, and this is head coach Glenn Foster's 40th year patrolling the Tiger sidelines. They're getting a lot of nice play from Nolan Hickey, first-year starter in net. He's looked really good as a senior. Will Harrington, another senior captain. He's got, I think, like 13 goals and 22 points. Luke Wiles, sophomore, has got another 13 goals of his own. Finn Wright's got 11 goals. Jason Clapp's a senior. He's got 9 or 10, somewhere in there. So Ipswich is playing very, very well as well. They'll be tested, though, Tuesday when they go out to Grafton in a non-league game.
And they played, I mentioned Manchester Essex on the girls' side. The boys' side is off to a good start, too. They're 3-1, only lost to Ipswich. And I believe that was a pretty competitive game, just a few goals. So Quinn Brady is leading the charge for Manchester boys. I think he's got close to 20 goals already. So that'll be a name to watch out for. They got a little bit of firepower on that team.
If I'm not mistaken, aren't the Rockport boys and girls lacrosse teams also undefeated?
They are. Yep. 0-0.
I thought so. Yeah.
And then I just wanted to mention too, over in the Salem news coverage area there, the North Shore, Hamilton Wenham, Evelyn Bernard, or Evie, as she's largely known as, is off to a ridiculous start. Again, she had 120 goals as a freshman last year, and she has scored at least six. I don't know if they played again since I wrote my column, and you guys could chime in if you got a score result from them. But she had 6 goals in both of her first 2 games, so she's picking up right where she left off. And at this pace, I think she's going to shatter some records on Hamilton Wenham. I mean, she's only a sophomore, and she's just I haven't seen a player like her with her knack of scoring in quite a while. So pretty impressive stuff from her. And her
What's your
older
name?
sister plays on the team, and I believe is a captain. She was one of our Salem News Student Athlete Award nominees, Stuart Bernard.
You know, the other, I think that Swampscott boys lacrosse team plays at Gloucester on Tuesday, tomorrow, as we record this on Monday, if I'm
I
not
believe that's
mistaken.
right,
But
yes.
yeah, so we're talking on Monday, Patriots Day afternoon, and this is to be posted on Tuesday morning. So just a little reference point for everybody. The other, Matt, you've been following baseball. Now, it's funny to me, we had Swampscott go 16 innings the other day to beat Winthrop. And it seems to me I've seen a number of different extra inning games already, albeit just a handful of games. But it seems like in the spring we don't normally get early spring. We don't get extra inning games, but an unbelievable 16 inning extra inning game early on in the season. Usually something happens to disrupt that, I guess. But whatever.
Yeah, there were a lot of guys on base in the extra innings and couldn't get them in. And there was, even in the 16th, both teams did score. Swamps, it was 4-4 forever. Swampska was able to get 2 across, and then Winthrop gets 1 to make it 6-5, and that's your final. So thank goodness, if you wanted to go home anyway, thank goodness they got the insurance run, right? I mean, geez, Swampska's a nice story early on. They won 4 games a year ago, and this year, as a Patriots Day, they already have 3 wins. So I'm sure they have designs on getting a heck of a lot more wins than they got last year. I mean, they only need 1 more to match. So that's nice to see. They got a lot of talented young players, and they got a lot of good senior leaders. So nice bounce back for the Big Blue, and it's a great sign when you can stay focused and get that extra inning win on the road, and not give up, right? It's easy to kind of give in and say, I want to get back on the bus and go home, but to grind and play all those innings. I mean, their sophomore catcher, Michael Collins, caught all 16 innings. I mean, that's I'm sure he had some ice for the knees after that one.
The other, we haven't talked much, obviously we haven't talked at all about softball, but can you share a softball? You guys share a softball note or two at all from the spring so far?
Yeah, Willie mentioned Saturday, the Perfecto.
Oh, just another perfect game for Abby Betancourt. No big deal. She only hit 2 home runs, so I guess she's off to a slow start, as they say. No, I mean, 48 pitches to have a perfect game, 5 innings, because Peabody scored 15 runs in the first against Masconomet. Young team, booted a few balls. They have one pitcher's a freshman, and I think the other one's a sophomore. So, they'll learn, they'll get better, but Peabody certainly is out for bigger and better things, and had their way with them. But 48 pitch perfect game, only 7 strikeouts. So that just goes to show you that the defense was really on point behind her, and played perfectly. No base runners, no errors, certainly nothing like that. So Tanner's 2-0. They got a challenging week. They play a half decent Danvers team on Wednesday, and then they play Bishop Fenwick on Friday, which as we've discussed, Gigi Opon is probably one of the top 10 pitchers in the state, and certainly the number 2 pitcher in the region here. So to see 2 girls that are both throwing in excess of 50 miles an hour, and I don't know exactly where Gigi's at. Abby's probably in the low 60s. So, I mean, that's going to be something to see. I would imagine, a stand behind the back stop if it's hot, because, you'll get a nice breeze there with the pitches coming in that fast with those 2.
Yeah, you talk about the all the extra innings for baseball games. If you want to catch a quick game, go see Betancourt pitch. Probably can't be longer than 90 minutes,
Yeah, right. Four home runs in the game. She had 2 of them. Logan Lamazny had the other, and Caitlin Burke had 1. And the freshman catcher, Kaylee DeNicola, almost had her first home run, but it ticked off the fence and came back in for a double. So I'm guessing she's bound to hit one out at some point one of these games. So
And this is the
yeah,
first time that Abby's not thrown to her sister in forever, right? New battery
uh,
mate with a freshman.
sure. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Bo's at Bates College. She's a starting catcher there. She's been timed out of high school, as it were. No fifth COVID years in the MIAA like you see in college, and 6 years and all that. So yeah, I mean that's got to be a fun. I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting story or a timeline. I mean, what's it like for a freshman? Coming in with one of these with these pitchers that are throwing a million miles an hour with all kinds of pedigree. It must be a little bit intimidating, right? But I mean, we've had Abby on the show here, and I think everybody that's talked to her knows that there's nothing really intimidating about her. I'm sure that she disarmed any fears real quick, and is probably pretty easy to work with. But that is a really interesting dynamic as a ninth grader to come into high school for the first time, and here's your job. You got to take care of the most important player, on the North Shore, and maybe the best softball player in the state. Like, talk about a baptism by fire.
I'm
Bill,
gonna,
I saw a pretty good game last week between Danvers and Beverly. 5-2 going into the bottom of the seventh. Beverly scores 5 runs to win it. Home run by freshman pitcher Lydia Medema ties it. And then Elsa Roulet hits a 2-run bomb to win it. So pretty dramatic comeback for Beverly. Beverly's got 3 freshmen in the starting lineup that are all pretty high-end talented. They were 4-0 until I believe they lost earlier today. Did I see that right, Willie? They lost the new report.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're 4-1 now, but they're off to a great start under Coach Megan Sudak. They get a lot of pop in their bats. They play pretty well defensively. Medema seems like the real deal on the mound, mixes her speeds very well. And Danvers got some great work too. Really impressed with Skylar Coakley on the mound. She threw a great game, I thought. They also have some talented youngsters of their own on the Danvers side. Allie McGinty, I thought, played well for them at third base. There's a Kyla Maroney. She was another strong, had a couple of strong base hits, played well in the outfield. She's only a freshman. Of course, they have Ava Gray, the all-conference catcher. So Danvers will be there in the end, too.
I'm going to just jump to something totally different, but Matt, maybe you want to weigh in on others. We've in the past during our sessions over the last year, we talked about the Endicott football team, nationally ranked. Now you got the Endicott baseball team, #1 ranked in the nation in Division III. I know there are not a lot of local players on that team, but on the other hand, interesting story, so close by. They won over the weekend. They won Sunday against Colby. They're off today. I think they're back in action Tuesday. And then Matt, I know you touched on the Salem State baseball team, the last program a couple of weeks ago now. They lost a couple of games on Sunday, it was, I guess, but they're back in action as we speak today. But I don't know, just any observations on this Endicott baseball team?
It's pretty remarkable, right? I mean, the pitching is like super impressive. The different guys they have over there. I think they were leading the nation in ERA at one point. John Connolly, Jordan Gottsman, and they got a great bullpen, Bagshaw, and on it goes. I mean, they just find ways to get guys out, and that's the thing. I mean, people say that their home run totals are maybe inflated because they play at the park that they do with the short porch and the big rock out there and this and that, but their pitchers are pitching there too, right? And they're getting guys out. They're not giving up bombs. So they're doing something right there, and it just really is remarkable to see the pitching, the way it's been, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens at the end of the year. I mean, they've essentially written their ticket back to the NCAA tournament at this point. I mean, they got another month to go. I'm sorry, really only 2 weeks to go. And then it's playoff time, and they've put themselves in position where even if they have a hiccup in the conference tournament, they probably get a bid, and maybe they have to go on the road. But I mean, those series at the end of the season in May to have the opportunity to maybe go back to Iowa and get back to the World Series and do better there than they did last year. I mean, I'm sure that would
Is it back in
really
Iowa,
make
Willie?
guys pretty happy.
Is the NCAA championships back in Iowa?
I thought it was the same place every year, like the Division 1 is. I could be mistaken on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just was curious.
I'm not sure. I assume, but I'm not. I'm actually not sure if it moves around or what the situation there is for them. But yeah, I mean, tremendous. And the pit, you got to give some credit to John Mulready out of St. Mary's of Lynn and the Peabody West Little League. I mean, he's been the catcher for 3 years now, and he handles all these pitchers, tremendously well. He was a All-American last year defensively, Rawlings Gold Glove All-American for his defense and his pitch calling, and he certainly is, doing that job again. And Nick Notarangelo is the all-time leader at Endicott now in home runs. So, that's pretty cool. The way they're hitting over there, I don't know how long that record will stand for, but he's going to graduate with it anyway.
What's interesting is they've been number one for a number of weeks now. And I'm thinking, when they got that number one ranking, I'm thinking, okay, in baseball, that's great, but can you keep it? Because you lose a game or two in a week, and all of a sudden, maybe, the voting changes. Somebody says, oh, this other team, won 3 games in 1 week, 4 games, whatever. But they've been number one now for quite a few weeks, right? I mean, I'm not following that totally
Just
closely.
the 2 losses. I mean,
yeah,
right? Would they have 13 in a row, Willie, before they split that doubleheader this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, actually, so they beat number 9, John Hopkins, down in Florida. They were voted number 1. That very day they lost in Florida. So I was thinking, same as you, Bill. I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a 1 week thing, a neat note in history. And they remained number 1, and they won 13 in a row, as Phil mentioned. And they just dropped their first conference game the other day, which, again, I mean, baseball, they're playing 50 or 60 games. I mean, you're not going to go 50-0. I mean, you're not gonna run the table. So I don't think it'll be held against them. Just 1 loss. I mean, that's pretty. It's still pretty good to be 24-2. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. I don't care if you're I don't care if you're talking about high school baseball or college at D1, D3. I mean, any level to win 24-26. That's hard to do.
Yeah, no, I hear you. In that sport, absolutely.
Exactly, because every day, and they're playing these 4-game weeks, so they're saving their quote unquote better pitchers, right, for the conference games, and things like that, and they're still finding ways to just win games and pitch and just get guys out, and that's some of these midweek games. It's not like they're winning slugfest. I mean, they're only allowing 2 or 3 runs a game, no matter who's pitching, which just goes to the depth and the just the overall focus that they have, and just the tremendous job that Brian Haley and his pitching gurus do, with their whole staff, right? I mean, it's not like they just signed one guy that's really, really good. They develop the whole staff. It's everybody, whatever they're doing. I'm sure there's plenty of guys that would like to put it in a bottle and then pass it around like Michael Jordan in Space Jam.
All right. Hey, let me think here. While we have you, we have a few more minutes left, but let's have you guys weigh in on either the Bruins or Celtics as we look to the postseason here. Nick, let's circle back to you. Go with the Celtics. What are you thinking? What have you taken out of this last couple of weeks? Have they taken the pedal off taking the foot off the gas, so to speak, here, or what's going on?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, they closed out strong. I think they won their last 2 after dropping 2 in a row. And I don't know. I don't read too much into those losses because they already had the number 1 seed locked up. It seemed like like you said, they took their foot off the gas a little bit and kind of relaxed. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing to do. I think if you're going to play, you should play and go all out and try and win games. But I don't think it's necessarily concerning that they lost a couple of those games when they already had everything locked up. Now, the interesting thing is they're going to be tested early. 7 and 8 seed right now is Philly, who is on an 8-game win streak since Joel Embiid came back from injury, and the Miami Heat, who have given the Celtics issues in the past, as recently as last year, beating them in the conference finals. So they're going to be tested early with one of those teams. I mean, there is a chance that one of the 9-10 seeds, the Hawks or the Bulls, could somehow beat one of those teams, and the Celtics wind up playing them. But I don't see that happening. I think the Sixers and the Heat will get the job done and get into the playoffs. So whoever they play in that first round, it might be their toughest round of the playoffs. I know the Knicks have been playing some really good basketball, and they're up to number 2 seed, so could see them down the road. Milwaukee's been shaky at best. They had the coaching change with Doc Rivers in the middle of the season. Now Giannis is dealing with a calf injury. We don't know when he's going to be back or if he's going to be at full strength. So I think the biggest threats to them are probably the Knicks, number 1, and then Miami Heat or Philly. I'd feel more confident against Philly. Something about Miami, Coach Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler just puts a little fear into them. But they've been the best team all season long. They should win it all this year. Just have to prove it. They've had teams like this in the past where they're the perennial favorite to come out of the East and to get the job done, and they haven't been able to do it. So obviously with the additions of Holiday and Porzingis, they're built a little bit differently, and I think their bench has impressed me a lot more than I expected. Peyton Pritchard's been great. Al Horford's been good coming off the bench. Sam Hauser can knock down some shots, but it's really going to come down to the starting lineup with the Celtics, Brown and Tatum, and Porzingis and Holiday and White and those guys. So we'll see. But like I said, that's a very interesting first-round matchup, regardless of if they get the Sixers or the Heat.
Bill, Matt, you want to weigh in on the Bruins here? A couple minutes left here, 3 minutes left, I think we have here about.
Sure. Will, you want to go, or I can go?
I just, excited to see what happens. I've heard some people complaining about Tampa. Oh, they're too good. Oh, this, that. But I mean, if you sort by points, the Bruins are 3rd, Tampa 6th. This is what belongs. This is a good matchup, and maybe it'll be exciting, and we'll enjoy it. And hey, it's hockey. It's a coin toss. Nobody was excited about the Florida matchup last year, and it turned into a great series and great theater, and you lost. So, maybe the hard way sometimes is the better way to go. I mean, some of these wars that the Bruins have had in the first round in some of their, long playoff runs, right? It's the second and third round sometimes after they catch fire that ends up being easy. I don't think you want the first round to be easy, so I'm looking forward to it. There's nothing like playoff hockey. We got to get the pucks deep and cycle that puck, and it should be great theater, and I'm looking forward to it.
What do they got? Three games left or something, Phil?
No, they have. Well, if you listen to this Tuesday, they played Monday night in Washington, so they could, if they beat Washington, they clinch the first, or they clinch the division, which would be the number 2 seed in the East. And then they wrap up the regular season at home Tuesday night against Ottawa.
Okay.
Willie, some interesting thoughts there. I don't like that matchup for Tampa for them. They beat Pittsburgh on the road Saturday night, national TV game. And I probably wasn't the only person who was like, yeah, did you have to get 2 points there? I think the best matchup for the Bruins, honestly, is Toronto. And the only way you're going to play Toronto is if you're the number 2 seed. So now they would have to lose both of their last 2 games. And by the time you listen to this, they might have already done that, or they might have already beaten Washington. But they'd have to lose their last 2, and then Florida would have to win their final game to leapfrog the Bruins from first place. But flip side, Willie's right. I mean, you know what? They've had some great first-round matchups over the year that have propelled them to long playoff runs. I mean, 2011, the year they won the Cup, they were down 2-0 to Montreal in that first series, and then won in 7. 2013, they were up 3-1 on Toronto. Then it was 3-3. Then they were down 4-1 in the third period, and we all know what happened there with the Bergeron overtime goal. First round in 19, who'd they play, Willie? Let me think. They swept Carolina in the final. In the conference final. Who'd they play in the first round in 2019?
Might have been another Toronto.
Who doesn't know that?
Yeah, I think it was another 7-game with Toronto, with DeBrusque scoring a couple goals in the third period. They might have won like 7-4 or something like that.
Yeah. It's not that I like the matchup. It's just that, hey, it's not your father's Tampa team. I think Tampa's middle six, and I think their bottom D pair are not what they used to be. And if you can stay out of the box and not let their power play kill you, I think it's a winnable series.
Well,
And
that's the thing. I think it's their power play against yours, which has been dreadful lately.
yeah, that's true.
The Bruins,
You know,
I mean, Pasternak has what? One power play goal in his last like 31 games. It's crazy.
yeah,
Like for a guy
he's been
who's on the
snake bit.
cusp of 50, how he's not scoring on the man advantage is like nuts to me.
But they're also, and again, like the Bruins aren't quite as good as it appears. They have all those, overtime lost points. Their regulation wins aren't, that great. Carolina has more points than them at the moment. So, again, if you sort the Eastern Conference like the old days, the Bruins will be playing Tampa anyway. So this
Right.
isn't like some unfair divisional thing. This is the
Right.
3-6 matchup as it should be.
Well, no, it would be the Bruins would be 2-7. They'd finish second.
No, but I'm saying if you went back to the old days,
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah.
So this is their own.
Good, Bill, but you got to cut us off. I know.
We're
Yeah.
gonna get cut off here, which
All right.
So,
Thanks,
gentlemen,
guys.
good. We'll wait for these results.